Wanted to bring you some pretty bombshell reporting from the Wall Street Journal about Amazon's corporate behavior. So according to 24 different entrepreneurs and investors and deal makers that the Wall Street Journal spoke with, Amazon has been meeting with startups about investing in their companies, sometimes makes the investment, sometimes doesn't, but then takes what they learn, this is what's alleged, in those conversations and uses it to launch their own competing products. So just imagine this. You're an entrepreneur, you got a startup, you're building this company, you've developed this great technology. Amazon, of course, because it has such huge market share.
$1 trillion company.
Right. I mean, you're going to take their call. Of course, you want their investment. You want to meet with them. Of course, you want to be featured on their platform, all of those things. You go in for the meeting there. Thank you. Don't think it's for us. And then a year later, you see them out with almost the exact same product using very similar technology based on what you and your company have developed, and you're essentially powerless to stop them.
Yeah, it's the big fear in Silicon Valley, right? And what's even more concerning is that this is just really ramping up what they're allegedly doing, accused of. Also a story from the Wall Street Journal earlier this year about how they use third-party data. Let's say you're an independent seller on Amazon. They see that your stuff is doing really, really well. Well, all of a sudden, then they create an Amazon Basics version of it and preference it in their algorithm, right?
Yeah.
So they can use their data of what is selling well in their store, then say, oh, we'll just create our own, and they can snuff you out. And that has been the accusation of anti-competitive behavior in Europe. They're actually bringing antitrust charges against Amazon for the very practice that I laid out. And it's very important because this is how you can stifle innovation. This is how monopolists can, because in this case, they're not even buying the companies. They're not creating market SKUs. They're actually just like creating their own, they're creating a similar version of it and destroying the company, because the company, probably part of their strategy, was to try and sell to Amazon or sign up Amazon as a client. So that is a particular problem here. And I just want to point out, like, in terms of how deep the corruption really goes, this was pointed out, friend of the show, Matt Stoller, actually. Let's throw his tweet up there on the screen. Who is leading Amazon's, defense against antitrust charges here in Washington and around the world? Lanny Buer, who was head of Obama's DOJ's criminal division during the financial crisis, and is apparently the reason, according to this is Matt's editorial, the reason that Obama didn't send any Wall Street bankers to jail.
There are probably a lot of cooks in that kitchen.
Probably a lot.
Not sending the Wall Street crooks to jail.
However, I think this story is very important because we know that the big tech CEOs are scheduled next week to all appear before the House Judiciary Committee on hearings about antitrust, about anti-competitive behavior, and all of this. There's a lot of controversy surrounding these hearings in the tech community, which I follow closely, because all four of them are going to be together. And that's part of the issue. People are saying, why should Bezos be next to Tim Cook, who should be next to Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like, Apple is not the same as Apple is a hardware company. Amazon is an e-commerce company, and Facebook is a social media company.
I'm sure members of Congress will finally parse those intricate details and be extremely knowledgeable on
If I have to hear a Republican congressman be like, how do y'all make money? And Zuckerberg's
Can you fix
like,
my phone?
Yeah, Zuckerberg is like,
I
sir,
don't make phones.
Advertising. And he's like, how is my iPhone listening to? I was just like, oh my God. And these are real. I can play you these clips.
It will be sad and not very enlightening, except about how deep the rot goes in terms of they're not sending their best and brightest to Washington, D.C. But just one final point on the antitrust stuff. And if this is something that you're interested in, and by the way, I hope it is something that you're interested in, because it pervades all aspects of our economy, not just tech,
society,
food, agriculture, I mean, everything that has, antitrust implications here. And Matt Stoller really is one of the best thinkers on this. One of the real problems is that the way that anti-competitive behavior has been determined and monopolies have been determined within the court system is basically this idea of it's hurting the consumer.
Yeah, consumer price.
So if prices are going up for consumers, you can prove, okay, this is a problem, we got to break them up. And so the challenge with something like Amazon is when they are controlling the marketplace and then they glean all the data, as you were putting, about which products are performing, and they can say, oh, that pair of socks is doing great, so let's make one that's like exactly like it, and we're going to feature it at the top in their little recommended, or however they privilege it in the algorithm. So they're controlling the marketplace and they're controlling the product, and you may benefit in terms of price. but it destroys
Yes.
the competitive business landscape across the country, which ultimately is to the detriment of all of us. But those are harder things, and we don't have a sort of judicial philosophy around calling that monopolistic or anti.
And there's another layer on this, which is that, let's say you're like Macy's, right?
Yeah.
And Macy's doesn't have what Amazon has. Because the reason Amazon can afford to take losses, like they can price in losses just to destroy a competitor,
right,
is because they have this thing called Amazon Web Services, which is where all the stuff in cloud computing services, that is a massively profitable business, which subsidizes their e-commerce business. Now, a lot of people don't understand. E-commerce is not the bulk of Amazon profit or even of their revenue. So if you can take a totally unrelated revenue, use it to then crush your competitors in retail, and then increase your profit there, does that make sense? Does that sound like a fair market? I mean, it's just one of these things where we've never been able to grapple with conglomerates and companies in this particular way before, and the way that we think about antitrust has to reflect the 21st century and not what it just used to be like 30 years ago.
Yep, absolutely the case. So tomorrow on Rising, we've got author, attorney, and professor Zephyr Chichan. She's going to join us to talk about her new book, Break 'em Up, about monopolies, why we should disband them. We're also going to get an update from the Trump campaign.
It's always fun. All right, please like and share, subscribe to this video. Really does help others find us. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Have a great day, guys. See you back here tomorrow.